At sunrise, a man from the Crow tribe was searching for his horses when he climbed up a hill to look out over a valley filled with men and horses. The Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors were getting ready to charge down the hill towards the Crows. The man ran back to the Crow camp as fast as he could. He warned everyone, and then 10 of the strongest warriors were sent to fight off the initial attack. They were supposed to hold off the enemy just long enough for the Crows to set up their battle lines and build a strong defensive position using teepee poles and covers. The Battle of Pryor Creek had just started. Back then, the Sioux and the Crow were enemies. The Sioux often raided Crow land, stealing food and supplies. Fighting between different tribes was a common way for young men to prove themselves and become respected warriors. They showed how brave, skilled, and clever they were in battle. By the middle of the 1800s, the United States was expanding westward. This had a big impact on the Sioux and Cheyenne people, who lived in what are now the states of North and South Dakota. The need to move westward led these people towards Crow territory, where they wanted to settle. As time passed, their visits became more common and more aggressive. Before we start, I want to ask you to consider supporting the channel if you like my work, since about 95 of my viewers aren't subscribed. Thank you. In 1910, an older Sioux man and his wife came to live on the Crow reservation. This Sioux man was a survivor of the Battle of Pryor Creek and would often tell the whole story in great detail. On the other side, a Crow man named Child in the Mouth had also been involved in the conflict and never got tired of telling and retelling the battle story. This is great because we have both sides of the battle. Early in the summer of 1859, a Crow war party killed a young Dakota Sioux warrior. He had earned a number of battle coups, which meant he was entitled to wear an eagle feather war bonnet. Her mother was filled with sadness and decided to keep grieving until her son's death was avenged. She would take her son's horse through the camp every evening, with a special hat tied to the saddle. As they passed by the tents, she would challenge the brave warriors. She would say, "Is there a man among the strong Dakota warriors who will take this horse and go fight the Crow?" She did this for a whole year. Then one day, a young man named Brave Wolf asked his sisters and aunts to arrange his wedding. They were all quiet. Finally, an outspoken aunt spoke up and said they didn't like the girl and didn't want her as a sister or daughter-in-law. Brave Wolf was very hurt and decided to kill himself. He wanted to join a group of warriors who had promised to die fighting for their people. By doing this, Brave Wolf would die with honor. The next time the mourning woman came to challenge the warriors, Brave Wolf took the reins of the warhorse. The woman spoke up, saying, "Finally, someone has taken my son's horse." Before long, a large group gathered to see what was happening. Brave Wolf became an instant hero that day. A meeting was called and a leader spoke. He said, "This is not just one person's decision. By taking that horse, Brave Wolf has brought us together on something that could be very important and serious. I'm wondering if the Great Spirit meant for this to happen, and I think we should take a whole year to plan against the Raven people. They might not be many, but they're clever and tricky in battle. It's time for us to get rid of them." Later that fall, another meeting was held. It was decided that the Dakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho bands all be invited to join forces on a big project. Messengers were sent to all the other bands telling them to stay with these groups for the winter. Their job was to convince the other bands to join them in moving into the Crows' territory, which was traditionally their enemies' land. Later that fall, another meeting was called. It was decided that the Dakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho bands be invited to join forces on a big project. A year earlier, a brave man took a horse from the woman's son. Emissaries were sent to all other bands with instructions to stay with these bands for the winter. Their task was to influence the bands to take part in moving into territory of their traditional enemies, the Crow. The ambassadors did their job well. By next May, all the Dakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho groups began coming to the meeting place, which were Big Goose Creek and Little Goose Creek. As the band started to arrive and set up their tents with time, the encampment grew bigger and bigger. It's been said that this was the first time in Sioux history that all the groups came together to fight against a common enemy. Scouts reported that the Crows were at Pryor Creek, just a half-day's ride to the north. The war leaders quickly gathered for a meeting. The Arapaho chief was asked to speak. "However, I'm giving permission to my warriors to stay and fight with you if they want to. You have heard me." Nighthorse broke camp and left, heading for the Bighorn Mountains to the southwest. He quickly sent his 2 half-Crow sons to warn the Crow camp about the war party, who were massed against them by thousands of Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapahoes. 1. The ambassadors did their job well. 2. By next May, all the Dakota, Cheyenne, and Arapaho groups began coming to the meeting place, which were Big Goose Creek and Little Goose Creek. 3. As the band started to arrive and set up their tents with time, the encampment grew bigger and bigger. 4. It's been said that this was the first time in Sioux history that all the groups came together to fight against a common enemy. 5. Scouts reported that the Crows were at Pryor Creek, just a half-day's ride to the north. 6. The war leaders quickly gathered for a meeting. 7. The Arapaho chief was asked to speak. 8. However, I'm giving permission to my warriors to stay and fight with you if they want to. 9. You have heard me. 10. Nighthorse broke camp and left, heading for the Bighorn Mountains to the southwest. 11. He quickly sent his 2 half-Crow sons to warn the Crow camp about the war party, who were massed against them by thousands of Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapahoes. Word count, 1761. As the Crows were leaving, they headed west. When Nighthorse's sons arrived in the evening, they were already at Rotten Grass Creek. Learning that a big enemy army was close behind them, they decided to move quickly and join other Crow groups. They packed up teepees and horses and soon started their journey. While the Crows were hurrying to the Bighorn River, thousands of Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho started their own journey. The wives sang farewell songs to cheer their husbands on, and the warriors let out loud whoops to get pumped up for the battle. Older men sang songs to praise their warriors. Many people who didn't fight, mostly wives and girlfriends of the warriors, and older warriors who were retired, joined the march to see the enemy defeated. Scouts reported that the Crows were near the Bighorn River, just below the canyon. Word count, 176. The top leaders decided to attack the Crow camp at dawn, which had around 400 homes, but by daybreak, the Crows were gone. Now, the leader in charge estimated the size of the Crow fighting force. He figured, based on 3 Crow warriors for each home, that the Crows were outnumbered. This meant 1,200 Crows against 8,000 to 10,000 well-prepared Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho warriors. After counting, the leader said, "When the sun sets today, there will be no more Crows left. We will kill all of their warriors and even the older men. We will save their young boys and raise them to become Dakota warriors. We will also marry their wives and daughters to have more children, who will grow up to be warriors to fight the whites when they follow us to our new land." The next evening, the Crow people arrived at Pryor Creek. At dawn the next day, a Crow man named Hitz went to search for his horses. As he climbed a hill to look over, he saw a huge group of men and horses. The warriors were ready to charge down the hill towards the Crows. A man ran to the Crow camp to warn everyone. 10 of the best warriors were quickly sent to the front to hold off the initial attack, long enough for the others to set up a battle line and a fence made of teepee poles and covers. These 10 men charged into the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, shooting into the enemy ranks and killing some Sioux. As they turned around and headed back, thousands of warriors came down the hill in pursuit, making a loud and frightening noise. The valley suddenly filled with the sound of war cries, gunshots, and horses' thunder. The Crows had set up their first line of defense on a flat area. Crow warriors, who had guns and bows, took a position nearby. When the Sioux and their allies crossed the creek and charged, one of the Crow leaders shouted a command, and the Crows started firing their guns with deadly results. The warriors quickly regrouped and made another charge, but this time they suffered a lot of losses. The repeated attacks by the Sioux and their allies suddenly stopped. The Crows stayed put, standing their ground. Then, one of the Crows, known as Crowman, took advantage of the situation to try a trick. He rode towards the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, using sign language to tell them that two groups of Crows were on their way to join them. However, he was lying, no help was actually coming. This was quickly followed by some strange and unexpected events. As the man was returning to his own group, the Sioux scouts on a nearby hill pointed out to their warriors. Down below, a large war party was making its way up the creek from the north. A big herd of elk had gotten excited because of the sounds of the battle. They started running, and their sharp hooves kicked up a lot of dust. Before long, the Sioux scouts saw what they thought was another group of warriors coming from the west. This time, the warriors could clearly see a big cloud of dust moving fast towards the battlefield. This big cloud of dust was actually caused by a large herd of buffalo running fast because they were scared of the noise of the battle in the valley. The Sioux leaders quickly gave the order to charge, hoping to break through the Crows' defensive lines before more help arrived. Here's the rewritten text in simple and natural language. 1. The Crow lines held strong and caused a lot of damage. 2. Then, the Sioux scouts saw a lone warrior riding quickly from the hills to join the Crow defenders. 3. This warrior had a special spear with 2 prongs made from elk antlers. 4. He suddenly charged into the Sioux warriors and started spearing them. 5. Other Sioux warriors stood their ground and started shooting their guns, but their shots didn't do much harm. 6. The lone warrior would circle around and come back, repeating his one-man charge. 7. At this point, the Crow ranks gave up holding back and launched a full attack. 8. The Sioux and their allies were forced to retreat, with every man running for himself. 9. The lone Crow warrior was right behind them, continuing his attack. 10. When the Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho arrived at their camp, they waited for 2 days, but no more warriors returned. 11. The various groups then broke apart and dispersed. 12. The Battle of Pryor Creek was over. Thank you for watching. If you like my channel, consider supporting it by becoming a member. It comes with many benefits. Word count, 174, not within the 1496 to 2025 range.